One of the world's leading authorities on goal achievement built his career by refusing to settle. While most people chase their why, Keith Abraham starts somewhere else. With how.
Lots of people talk about finding your why, and I think why is too hard. You got to go and sit on a rock in the middle of a rainforest for 2 weeks to work out your why. Nobody's got that time to do that, unless you're having that midlife crisis or that, when you have that, geez, what am I on this planet for conversation.
Keith believes momentum creates clarity, not the other way around. But even he has had moments where momentum has slipped.
It just did everything I tell people not to do. I say to people, starve your distractions and feed your focus. I fed a distraction and I starved my focus. It was that classic of going, okay, I've just taken a couple of steps back here and I need to just adjust and modify. And what happens there, Andrew, is of course the market moves on and you've got to reinvent yourself and you have to, lift your game.
This conversation is about that adjustment, the discipline of reinvention and the velocity required to stay relevant and to keep moving. I'm Andrew May, and this is the show that unlocks potential in everyday life. This is Performance Intelligence.
I launched a coaching offering, and it just didn't work. And why it didn't work was I got away from what core was, and I think I got caught in ego, and I thought, well, you know what, I can make a lot of money out of this. And
when was this?
Oh, this is probably about 4 years ago. I've done some things where I probably gave up a bit too early. And I've done some things where I probably, I was just so committed to being tenacious and hanging in there where I should have pulled the pin a lot earlier. So, and I think this is the thing of coming back always and going, what was I put on this planet to do? And it's okay to be a great dad, a great mum. You don't have to be changing the world or anything like that. People often say to me, how's things been? Great. What have you been up to? I've been changing people's lives. I started with me first. Because I think that's the ripple that you need to create.
There are two definitions of mental toughness. The definition that most of us know of is William Wallace in Braveheart, but they won't take my freedom, and charge. And that's where you push through the towering inferno and save the troops and the women and the children. And that's noble, that's brave, and that's some of what you see in sport. Really incorrect. Because the other side of mental toughness is actually knowing when to pivot or when to give up, because you can flog a product, a program, a narrative for way too long and you just burn 10 years. And a lot of entrepreneurs have that because they go, no, I've put so much of my life, I've put $1 million, $2, $3 million into this. And how did you get to that stage where you went, okay, coaching program, I've been doing this for years, got caught up in ego. How did you pull the pin on that and, one, acknowledge it, and two, drop it?
Well, once again, I had a very deep conversation with my forum group, and they go, we see you as the person who is brilliant on stage and your content is wonderful. Why are you doing this? Why not go back to what you're the very, very best at rather than trying and to do something that is probably out of your wheelhouse? And, and it was a tough message to hear because, like you said before, well, this is about just being tenacious. I just need to hang in there. I think my superpower is that I'm tenacious. But I think you've got to be tenacious about the right things. There's some things that you get tenacious. Well, for me, I get pretty tenacious about, and you go, but it's not serving me. And then I think what you've got to do also, Andrew, is you've got to just, okay, let me project. Okay, so if I keep on this pathway, where am I going to be in 6 months' time? I keep on this pathway, where will I be in 12 months' time? Where will I be in 3 years' time? Is that going to give me any more joy? Is it going to give me any more impact? Is it aligned with who I am, what I do, how I do it? And could I do it a different way? Could I still do something like this, but actually that's not my core business? So, there's that. You just have to start questioning yourself, but to question yourself, you've got to reflect. And most people are travelling at Mach 1 with their hair on fire and they never reflect. They get to their Christmas holiday break and they go, I'm going to have 3 weeks or 4 weeks off at Christmas and enjoy the summer. And the first week is they just defrag, and then they're not, and then they crash. And the best thing that most leaders can do is to make sure they go on retreat, is to go and, for me, I love being with my family, I love people and everything like that. I love solitude as well. I love the ability to go and be with myself in an environment where I'm just thinking about me in the future.
Solitude and loneliness are two very, very different.
Yeah, lots of people might have got 1,000 people around and they're lonely. Lots of people are that, but the solitude is I just need to be with my own thoughts. And I'm, before I jumped on this podcast today, I just sort of made a note in my schedule to say I need to spend a bit of time with some solitude just to think a little bit about how do we just adjust this messaging around unstoppable velocity, because I'm now been talking about it and writing about it, and what's come out of it is some other ideas and insights that I go, this is starting to resonate more with people. When I talk about this is resonating more with people. So let me now bring that in a little bit, like, without sort of letting the genie out of the bottle.
Keith, do I have permission to ask your age?
I'm 63. Oh, sorry, I'm 64. I feel like I'm 63. No, I'm 64. I'm 65 next year.
Here's my point, and here's the observation. You're getting close to 65. I don't know how a 65-year-old is meant to behave, act, talk, speak, dress, think, communicate, plan, draw, redesign, re-engineer, keep frickin' well going again. You inspire me. I look at what you're doing and go, God, 15 years time, I can still be doing this shit and go into a whole different level. For most people, Keith, they get to 50 and think, I've got to plan my retirement. And if I look at these government bonds and I've got my superannuation and I've got a valuation on the house because old Noreen sold the house down 2 rows and she got 2.5. You approach this now like you're just a young kid out of school. Where does that come from? And have you always had that? Is it?
No, I don't think I always had that, mate. I think what happened was you had a conversation with me about my health. And then not long after that, I had a conversation with one of my clients. And the client said, we love you, Keith. And they're a health company. They said, we love you, but you're overweight. Well, and the reason why we're saying this is we want you on our stages for another 10 or 15 years. And we just think that and I reckon at the time I was probably about 10, 15 kilos over. Well, I was 15 kilos overweight.
I was diplomatic because I didn't know whether you wanted to talk about this, but you've opened it up.
Yeah, no, so I'm happy to talk about this because this was a real, and then sort of not long after that, COVID hit, and I lost 70 conferences in 10 days. I rocked backwards and forwards in the corner for a day, and then I decided how would I do virtual, and I did a lot of virtual. I did 130 virtual presentations in 2020, and so I bulked up, for both winter and summer all at once. And the client said to me, and so I just went, okay. And then I just made a decision then, I'm not going to turn up fat. Each to their own, I'm talking about me. I'm not going to turn up overweight and tell the people to get their life in order, and I don't have mine in order. And so that was a catalyst. And what's that done is it's reinvented me and it's re-energized me. And I think the other thing as well, and I know this sounds a bit, but I talk to people about what's the 100 things they want to do in their life. And I've got plenty of things on my list that I want to do. And I got, my eldest is 27, my youngest is 24. They're going to have kids, and I need to be around as long as what I can be. And I also think, Andrew, there's nothing that says I can't be a Zig Ziglar and still presenting at 90 years of age if I've got great content and great wisdom.
Love you, Keith. I do. And I love your energy. I'm proud of you. You're looking good. For people who are listening on a podcast, I'll paint the visual. He's got a really nice, tight, tailored blue T-shirt, button up, got the guns out. Your body shape. I do. I go back to that coffee shop where we sat by the beautiful pool in Bali, and you said to me, you've been honest, you said, Andrew, I really like your energy. And you're diplomatic as well. We're still in our first date phase. And you said, mate, have you thought about getting a bit more of a connection with people beyond the stage? I said, yeah, I've thought about that. And you told me a model that has changed my business. Do you know what that model is? I said to you before we went on air, there is a piece of sage advice the Silver Fox gave me 6 years ago that is now the engine that runs our business. You said most speakers think about the event that's during. You said, I'm going to give you a framework. This will change your life.
The before, during, after, and forever after.
Boom. Do you know how much that has changed my life? So for everyone who's going, what are these two clowns going on about? Most people just look at during. So that's during your presentation, during the meeting. And you said, no, before. That example I asked you to get out of, you said model and then message, and I looked at method. That was a really good example where you look at that. Okay, you've done the delivery, but before that, you've doodled, you've scribbled. So there's before you do what you do. There's during what you do. And I'd been doing okay in both, but I could up the game. But then it was after, and you said to me, what are you doing, champ, after you finish an event? Like, do you write a letter to someone? Dear Keith, thank you for the opportunity to go and speak over in Bali. Really enjoyed it. Give them a personal message. Do you know how much business we have got from that?
Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's the same as probably what I've generated, mate. Yeah.
The amount of people that say thank you, and unless they've booked Keith Abraham, thank you, Andrew. Hardly anyone has ever sent a gift and said thank you, or hardly anyone has ever taken the note to write that personal message and really go that extra level. Thank you. And then the kicker, forever after, put them on a database, go back every 3 months and let them know what you're doing. Yeah. Love you, brother. Love you. And I'm so happy to see that it's been this mutual benefit that you are lean and mean fighting machine, and at mid-60s, you're kicking on your goals. You got 20-year goals, 25-year goals.
Yeah, you got it. But it was funny, mate. I was working with some stockbrokers yesterday, and of course, the work they do is very clinical and it's very technical, and we talked about, like that whole before, during, after, and forever after, and just so people think, it's just a speaker thing. No. Think about, what people deliver is the technical or the product or the service, but the other railway track is the experience. And that's why I sort of talk a lot to people about what do you do before, during, after, and forever after. The first book I wrote was Creating Loyal, Profitable Customers, because everybody talked about how to find them and how to sell to them, but nobody talked about how to keep them. And in an AI world, and you and I chatted about this the other day, in an AI world, it's AI plus AI, and the other AI, so artificial intelligence plus authentic individuals. We are coming into a currency, and the currency of credibility in an AI world will be authenticity. And so the ability for people to truly connect with people, to write a handwritten note to what's saying, to understand what's their favourite chocolate or their favourite wine or their favourite footy team, or that is going to be so much more valuable in when you create a human connection.
Ladies and gents, ChatGPT doesn't teach you that shiz. The Silver Fox does. Hey, on that, give me an example. You don't have to mention the client's name for confidentiality, but give me a client who's booked you once as a one-off keynote. And what has that led to as far as number of bookings, years of relationship, scope of delivery?
So let me give you a great story.
And you smile like when I ask you that.
I smile because I know exactly the story I want to tell, because it's the one thing around tenacity is I met a client early on in my career who run lots of conferences, and I said, love the opportunity, and they said, no, we've got a speaker booked, and I said, can I stay in touch with you? So I had 16 years of no. Now, they never said no, piss off. They just said, no, not this year. We're using somebody else. We're getting somebody from the US. We're using internal people. And I just kept on saying, can I stay in touch with you from time to time? And I put them on the database and send them a new book and just stayed in touch with them. Anyway.
So just in case anyone missed that, 16 years.
Yeah, 16. Yeah.
What's the average tenure of a speaker? You know this through national speakers. How 5 years?
Yeah, correct. People come and go really, really easily. I can tell you stories of people that were being booked 100 times a year for 3 consecutive years, and in their 4th year went down to 20, and in the 5th, 0. So 16 years. In the 16th year, they contacted me, which was unusual because they just...
Hey, Keith, you still alive? 16 years.
16 years.
You're looking a bit unhealthy last time. Yeah, you're still there, buddy. Has that guy with a shiny head got your match fit yet?
Oh, boy. And they said, are you available to speak at a conference in Brisbane, 1,500 people? And I said, let me check my schedule. Yes, I am. All great. One of their leaders had picked up my book in a bookstore or whatever, and obviously they said, we should have this guy. We know this guy. This guy's been in touch with us for 16 years. So some social proof there. And did that presentation, connected with a few really good people there, and next year I will deliver. So this is 9 years ago. This is now 9 years ago. In February, I will deliver my 55th presentation for them. And they've taken me all over the world. They've licensed my content. They've bought my books, translated them into different languages for people in Europe and South America, et cetera, et cetera. So 55 clients. I'm glad I didn't give up in the 14th year.
It's a great story. Good example. Yeah,
tenacity wins every race, mate.
I wanted us to pause here for a moment because what you've just described is the part that most people never see, the reinvention, the letting go, the adjustment, the tenacity. There's a lot of discussion, and I've heard this, and I see some benefit, but I think it can sometimes feel a bit kitsch. So find your why. Look, I get it, understanding your why, higher order, and there's some research around linking to your purpose. But you instead focus on discovering your how. So talk to me how that came together.
Well, lots of people talk about finding your why, and I think why is too hard. You got to go and sit on a rock in the middle of a rainforest for 2 weeks to work out your why. Nobody's got that time to do that, unless you're having that midlife crisis or that, when you have that, geez, what am I on this planet for conversation. So the research that I've done, Andrew, is we are emotional creatures. Of the 135 different emotions you and I can experience, 64 of them are positive. And of those 64, we've worked out there are 8 what I call goal drivers. And so the thing I say to people is start with how. And if I can put something up here on a bit of a whiteboard here.
So I'll explain for our podcast listeners. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see it. So Keith, you can tell give a presenter a whiteboard and a marker, and they'll just go. So go for it, buddy.
Oh, thanks, mate. You're far too kind. But what I say to people is, if you start with how you want to feel. See, if I said to you, Andrew, tell me your why, and you could probably do it because you've gone down this pathway, but if I said to most people in an audience, tell me your why, they couldn't tell me. But if I said, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? And there are 8 what I call driving emotions. People want to feel successful. People want to feel purposeful. People want to feel inspired. People want to feel happy. People want to feel organised. People want to feel respected. People want to feel confident, and people want to feel relaxed. And each one of those, that's the emotion. But what's the driver behind it? If we talk about success, people want to be making progress, creating momentum. If we talk about purpose, people want to create legacy, something that lives on beyond them. And it's not a name on a building, but people want to feel successful, purposeful. People want to feel inspired. That's about impact. The impact that you have on others, people around you, family. You want to be a great dad, you want to be a great mum. That's impact. People want to feel happy. That's about you delivering joy and being joyful. People want to feel organised. That's about control. They're driven by control. People want to feel respected. That's about mastery. People who want to feel confident, that's about them being their best friend and their greatest coach, not their harshest critic and their worst enemy. And people who want to feel relaxed is about they want their life to be in flow. They don't want conflict, the conflict with themselves. Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Am I doing the right thing here? I think I'm doing the right thing. So if we take those 8, Andrew, what I say to people in audiences, tell me how you want to feel. Let's pick an area. Tell me how you want to feel in your career. Tell me how you want to feel with your relationships. Tell me how you want to feel financially. Tell me how you want to feel in your health. People can tell me in a heartbeat. Then what we say to people is we come back to the whiteboard here and we go, now you ask the question, what? What's the goal? What's the goal you need to achieve to feel that emotion? Next 6 months, next 12 months, what's the goal? So if you want to feel successful, what are you, in your career, what's the goal you need to achieve in the next 6 to 12 months? And people go, oh, I need to hit this target, I hit this budget, I need to implement this project, I need to revamp, I need to learn AI, whatever it could be. Then we talk about why, but not why like find your why. We say, tell me the 5 reasons why this goal is so important to you. Not what your life goal is, but why this goal is so important to you.
Let's give that some granularity, because I love the process and very typical Keith Abraham, very well thought out. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to ask you a question in a moment on method. Let's stick to message.
Yeah, sure. So how, what, why? Here's the final piece of the puzzle that most people never ask because our ego gets in the way. Who can help me? See, ego tells us that we need to do it all ourselves. But when you humble yourself enough to sit at the feet of a master, and a who, Andrew, could be a me, a you, a who could be a book, a who could be a podcast, a who could be a YouTube channel, a who could be a mentor, and we'll talk about mentors probably later. Once you work out who can help you, because and you'll probably ask me this question, the one thing I'd say to you is you then go, who can help me accelerate? I'm driven, my why around my business and my speaking is my purpose. I was put on this planet to help people achieve their goals faster, easier, and sooner. And if I can help people achieve their goals faster, easier, sooner, we start to create velocity. In actual fact, by creating velocity, the individual becomes unstoppable. And so when you can apply this, you get connected to your goals. And once you become connected, you become committed. Once you become committed, you become compelled. And when you have that, you do the uncomfortable, the inconvenient, and the unknown. And that formula works for people. And it's simple. People have been listening to you and I talk and, last 5 minutes talking through that process. All of a sudden they go, oh yeah, I want to feel a lot more relaxed. Okay, well, what do I have to achieve? I need to make sure that I've got this work-life balance sorted out. I need to...
Let's pick up on that. Let's pick up on two things. I want to pick up on the message and let's give it some real granularity. So we'll talk through a study and you can help me put some meat on it. Then I want to talk about the method, and especially for people who are watching this on our YouTube channel, you make that look so easy. Your messages are sticky. It's one of the key messages you taught me in Bali. But to do that, there's a hell of a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. So let's hold that, and I'll come back to that around the method. So many corporates just look at the message and they forget the method. Let's pick relaxed. So the opposite of that is I'm stressed out. We see burnout now is more than ever, fatigue, irritability, all those emotions and problems that go with it. So let's run that structure through for someone who wants to be more relaxed. So how do you want to feel more relaxed?
So they want to feel more relaxed. So in essence, they want to feel like they're in flow. So they have to reduce conflict. Now, people think conflict is I'm in conflict with you. No. Sometimes I'm in conflict with my values. Sometimes I'm in conflict with the work that I'm doing. I'm doing the $25 hour jobs. I'm doing the draft horse jobs when I should be doing the racehorse jobs. And you get frustrated because you're not doing the things that fill you with joy. You're not doing the things that uplift you, that energize you, that fill up the tank. So then what we come back to people and go, sometimes you've got to do the crappy stuff. Okay, but on the other side of the crappy stuff is the stuff that you want to enjoy and that energizes you. And so what we then say is, okay, so what goal would you need to do that? Well, I get a great deal of joy. How many people, by the way, Andrew, and this explains this really good, how many people do you know, leaders that you know, the thing they love doing the most is the thing they're doing the least in their business?
Oh, and when you ask everybody if there was one thing, one factor I could take away from you right here, right now, that would hurt you the most, 99.99% of people will say family, loved ones. All right, big leader, let's have a look at your diary. What does it look like the last month? Where has your effort, energy, intention gone? Oh, it was a bad month, mate. Let's look at your last quarter. Let's look at your last year. Let's look at your last decade. And you've had similar conversations. All right, you got me. It's been a really bad decade. So then thinking about that for our audience, it's really powerful to ask, right, what do I really want? And this framework is great for that. Am I aligned? What does my diary look like? And it's such a simple activity. Are your actions aligned with your intentions? Or are you full of it? And we can sometimes add a sh in front of the it for more punctuation.
Yeah. I think one of the things that people, if we're talking about feeling relaxed, the relaxed piece is going, okay, I need to find the things that will, relaxed is the end result of. One of the things I often talk about is on the other side of a goal is abundance. And then people go, we think of abundance as in wealth. But in essence, if you achieve the goal to help you feel more relaxed, what's on the other side of that? And what tends to be, I turn up a hell of a lot better for my family. I turn up and I've got time and energy and presence for my people. And so, what tends to happen is we don't think about what the abundance is. And the thing I'd say to you about in particular relax is that, so maybe the goal is I just need to make sure I exercise every day because, when I feel like I exercise every day and people go, well, that's a fitness goal. No. When I feel like I go and exercise each day, I don't feel so guilty. And when I don't feel so guilty, I feel a lot more relaxed about me. It's so easy that to people go, oh, that's a fitness goal, that's a business goal. No. Just think about what's on the other side of it. I'm just talking about one more thing around this, Andrew, is that I honestly believe that people's lives are made up of four areas. You either do the things you love to do, you do the things that you like to do, you do the things that you have to do, or you do the things that you hate to do. And that's in everything in life. But where people become, my belief, this is more in your wheelhouse, but where people become more dissatisfied in their life, it's because their life is totally consumed by the things they have to do and hate to do. And they have nothing in the column of the things they like to do and love to do. And so this is so important that people balance it out because you have to have something when you go through the have to do and hate to do stuff. You have to have something on the other side that engages you, enthuses you, energizes you, not things that you endure.
And another layer, who are you doing that for? Because if you get in those bottom rungs, and I like that language, have to. You don't have to, you can choose to, but then hate to. And you're often earning more money than you need to try and impress people you don't even like. So, we drive big cars and no one sits on the seats, buy holiday homes that no one sees and have big houses and no one's there because you're a cranky arsehole. Come back to some of these core drivers and just closing out, I like that one around relaxed. So how do you want to feel? What do you need to do? What's the goal? A couple of reasons around it as you've framed, and then who do you go to for help? It could be a book, it could be a podcast, it could be a mentor, it could be a yoga class. I really like that as a coaching frame. This is obviously not the first time you've taught that. No. Well, but this is really sitting back and me sitting down and going, well, if I'm absolutely 100% passionate, committed and purposeful about helping people to achieve their goals faster, easier, sooner, we have to remove complexity. You cannot scale complexity. So how do we take the complexity out of it? And I can teach that model. I've just shared it with all of your listeners. They could turn up at their team meeting tomorrow and share exactly the same thing. They could write 4 words down,
feel, they can watch the YouTube, they can even play the YouTube for their people and go, how do you want to feel? What's the goal? What are the 5 reasons why? And the reason why I say 5 reasons, because anybody can come up with one. But until you get to 5 reasons, you don't get enough commitment and compelled enough to do it. And if you want the pro version of this, ask yourself 1 reason why, and then ask yourself the question, why is that important? Then ask yourself, why is that important? And then, and what tends to happen is people's physiology change. It changes in front of you. I've done this in intimate groups and in mentoring sessions, and you see a change. It could be a tear in the eye, or you see that spark in someone where all of a sudden their whole demeanour changes. And when you go, they've just got it. They just realise what it is.
To help our audience realise what it is on a deeper level, let's pull this apart a little bit.
Sure.
Message is what you say and the content. Method is your delivery. And I would add a third M, I know you love your alliterations as a fellow speaker, would be mastery. And you would argue after 30 years, you would say, I'm not at mastery yet, but it is a goal I am striving for, because if you feel like you've got mastery, you've got your head up, your proverbial, and it's time to drop the mic. So you've just gone through that message beautifully. I'm also looking at the method. The lesson I'd like to pull out, how do you look at teaching a concept and for a specific goal? A lot of people who listen to this podcast, watch this podcast, corporates, sport, defence, business, and they have to give messages. And so many people in the corporate world prepare a PowerPoint deck, and they spend all the time on the deck and go, oh, look, page 6, we need to realign that table, make the font a bit bigger. And they get up and present. And it's just proverbial dog shit. And this is no disrespect to the person, but they've spent all the time on the PowerPoint deck, but no time on method. Talk us through even that frame. When you came up with how, what, why, who, how do you go about doing that? What's the initial process? How do you practice it? How do you...
Yeah, great question. Let me give you another M. I start with a model. I start with the model first. So if somebody's listening here, don't forget about content, forget about message for the moment, forget about slides and everything. Just start with 3 circles, start with 4 circles, and just go, if I could deliver 3 messages to 3 ideas, 3 concepts, 3 expectations to the group, to my client in this pitch, it's the same process. Andrew, you go, I start with a model. I start with a blank piece of paper. I'm a dinosaur around this stuff because I still use a pen.
During COVID, you taught so many speakers in Australia during COVID. We were doing shitty jobs, and I looked at you. Well, we had a mentoring session, and you said, "Hey, buddy, I'm doing a fair bit in COVID in digital presentation. How are you going with it?" And I said, "Oh, I think mine's horrible." And you said, "Let's have a coffee chat. Get a coffee, 9 a.m. Tuesday." You come on. You've got a green screen. You've got a flip chart. You went the whole next level. So come on, I'm going to correct you, champ.
Okay, so thank you. I still write as tech savvy as I am. I still write with a fountain pen. I'm not a quill. I'm not that ancient, but with a fountain pen. And I just draw some circles and some messages. And what I might do is just start writing down the messages I want to get across. I might come up with 10 messages that I'd like to get across, but I go, if I could put them into 3 categories, what would the 3 categories be? And then, like you, like me, I like my alliteration. I sort of then go, well, is there a word that I can use? And I put that down. And originally, I had these 3, the how, the what, the why, and the who's been something over the last couple of years, because I go, you know what, I'm not standing in front of you today not without some great who's around me. Whether they be, I have a personal mentor at the moment, I've got a business mentor, I've got a forum group of 7 guys that we meet, virtually every month, and then every quarter we get together for 3 or 4 days, and then once a year we go on a week-long retreat, and so, I've got wonderful people around me, and then I go and find expert mentors, somebody who can help me be a better presenter, or somebody who can help me be better at, wealth creation. And so the reason that I've included who is that's really that's the thing that slows most people down, because I think, I have to do it all myself. No. There's plenty of experts that can accelerate the process.
I like exploring it. So you write it down, you come up with a couple of circles, squares. It's alphabet soup, isn't it? You're juggling the words. Do you do it out loud in your studio?
I would say I just tend to get either a flip chart or I got an A3 pad, and I just start to write some things down, and I don't tend to put them into the circles yet, but I just start writing the ideas and the concepts down, and then I go, and I've done this with the book, I've done this with developing a new presentation, and then when you start looking at it all, Andrew, you go, well, this goes with that, and that goes over here, and that makes sense here, and that's a better fit there, and then you go, there's my 3 messages. And then I go, if I'm talking about a presentation, we could do a whole podcast just on this, by the way. When I talk about the presentation, I go, what would be a powerful opening? What are the 3 messages I want to get across? How do I summarise it? And what's my call to action? And what's a good story to finish off with? And that's the framework that I use when I teach people how to be better at presenting or pitching ideas inside the company, outside the company, build their profile, position themselves better, whatever it could be. So, but that's what I was taught.
There's a lot of effort and a lot of time. So when we hear you do that, it rolls, bang, bang, bang. I just want to pull on that thread. I agree it's another podcast. Let's chat about this. I reckon a podcast along the lines of how to write a world-class presentation with the silver fox. I reckon that'd be good. And I'm shiny fox, mate. I don't have any.
Oh, mate, very funny. Very, very funny. Yeah, so that's, there's a chunk of content there. But that model works for people, Andrew, and you mentioned to me, the original question was how, and that just gives it a lot more depth. And I sort of don't apologise for building the depth of understanding into that, because you and I both believe that if somebody can take something they've learnt from this podcast away and use it with their people or their family, could you imagine sitting around a family table? And I've done this with my team, my wife, my 2 daughters. Is okay. Well, how do I want to feel about, us as a family unit? Okay. So what would be one goal we need to achieve? Well, we need a different type of family holiday. Great. Okay. And why is that important? It's about connection, Dad. We just, we're in 4 corners of the world. We're traveling. We're doing different things. And you go, okay. Well, who could be a who for us? Well, let's go and talk to someone who's been somewhere funky lately.
Once you understand that process of how, the key is you got to keep going in momentum. And I said this in the start, 30 years, we'll add a little bit more context to that. You've delivered your message to more than 500 clients across 43 countries. You're the author of 6 books. Yeah? Unstoppable Velocity comes out in a couple of months. That is constant reinvention, evolution, recreation, going back to what it's all about. Talk to me about how do you sustain that output? What underpins it?
We've got to have a big reason. Yeah, purpose is really important to me. It's got to matter. It's all the work that I do is about, does it make a difference? Does it matter? Is it meaningful? So that's really important to me. I think the other piece, mate, is I always want to be relatable. I don't want to be the guy that, oh yeah, we saw him 5 years ago and he hasn't never changed his message. We don't want that. I don't want to be that guy.
He's that guy who wears the Sydney 2000 tracksuit. Yeah, we heard him.
Yeah, that's right. But that's the thing, I won't mention names, but I've seen lots of speakers come and go. And the reason why they come and go is they stop being relatable. And, I'll give you a classic example.
I reckon two reasons. They stop being relatable. They don't do the work. And I think the second one is you start to believe the hype. And if you realise you are a character in a play, as William Shakespeare said many, many years ago, and if you start to believe it, like you got your stage identity, but then you go home, and this is why having 4 kids for me is awesome. They don't give a shit about what I do. I'm dad. Hey, you're late.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's it. No, I mean, oh, look, I've just had 3 standing ovations and people, just flock to the back room.
Take the rubbish out. Go mow the lawn.
Yeah. You got to be, I think, that's the thing is I always wanted to be, it's the one value as what I do is what you get on stage is what you get off stage. I'm just the same. I talk the same. I'm down to earth. I grew up on a farm. Wife, Christine and I have been married for 33 years. We've been business partners for almost 30 of those 33. We've been, raised two great daughters, and not without trials and tribulations. It's not all roses. It's not all any of that type of stuff. But you sort of go, you ask the question about building momentum. Momentum is about growing and changing. And I'm a great believer as well as you are, Andrew, is that I don't want to tell my audiences they need to change and I'm not doing it. I have to be, I honestly believe I have to be the living example, not the talking example. People need to see it before they hear it.
And if I can stitch some of the messages together we've spoken about so far, you've been speaking for over 30 years. You've had a few challenges, a few ups and downs. You've gone well for a while and then you've gone, boom, let's start a coaching program. Shit, no one's buying it. Maybe ego got out of the way. Parallel time as well, just after you weren't your sharpest, fittest, healthiest. So you got some cognitive capacity drop there as well. And then you go, bang, the big fella's going to get this back. So you really did that reinvention, late 50s, early 60s. Hello, if anyone's listening to this and you go, I'm 40 now or 50 now, I hear this in some of my teaching. I'm like, for fudge's sake, come on, ladies and gents. If you're going to have a 90 to 100-year life, like Keith, you're only 2/3 there, mate. And you think you've just got another 1/3. So that energy, that drive, and it hasn't been easy, but you keep going. The theme song, if you had a track to your story, then it's Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Yeah. But that's most people's lives. They just don't realise it at the time. Andrew, and once again, it's just, you've got to have, I come back to goals all the time. It's not about goal setting. It's about a goal achievement. It's not about achieving them, slower, harder, never. It's about achieving them faster, easier, sooner. And to do that, and this is the three key parts of the book is you've got to know what drives you. You've got to discover your driver, the emotional drive. The second is you've got to make sure that you have defined your desire. What's the goals? Long-term, short-term, medium-term. What's the big, bold goal? What's the thing that's going to energise, enthuse, engage you? And then the final is you've got to develop determination. And here's the beautiful thing about this is that when you know what drives you, you need less determination, not more. And the longer it takes to achieve the goal, the more determination you need. And so when you have a monofocus, when you have a momentum mindset, and when you take time to master those micro wins every day, that builds up the determination. But you need those other couple of components to help you become unstoppable and help you create the speed.
I think you're good living proof of that. I have made a note. We will come back. We'll do it next year sometime. We'll do the process to designing a world-class presentation. I reckon that'll be a crack, and we'll wax lyrical on that and share a few thoughts on either side. In wrapping up today, I'm going to give you the flip. Is there a question in preparation for today that I haven't asked you, or the flip? Is there a question you'd like to ask me?
Here's a question you haven't asked me. I've been married for 33 years. I have two daughters. What's the secret to that? I mean, that's, and the answer's short, so it won't take too much time. And the other question I've got for you, mate, is you have created phenomenal momentum in your business. I know you've just been working with the Wallabies. I know that the Commonwealth Bank love you. I know your clients there's a great longevity in your clients. That doesn't happen by chance. That happens by a choice. So I suppose if you want to ask me one more question, and my question to you is, what's been the secret for your longevity with your clients? Because I see you do dynamic work, I see you, but it's that longevity of, I always say, Andrew, the real measure of any great business, whether it be a speaker or a car dealership or an insurance business, is does your client return and do they recommend? That's it. Because if they return, you have sustainability, and if they recommend, you have profitability. So maybe answer that question for me.
Okay. Can you tell me how have you been married successfully for 33 years with 2 beautiful daughters? And then I'll answer what I think I do for those relationships.
Here's the key. Families stay together who have goals together. I have a list of 20 things I want to do this year. Christine has a list of 20 things she wants to do this year, and we have a list of 20 things we want to do together. The second is every year, at the start of the year, and a couple of times during the course of the year, my girls sit down with me and talk about their goals. Dad, can you help me set my goals for the year? And we go through exactly the same process. How do you want to feel? What? Why? Who? And the other thing, mate, is that we have, on a fairly regular basis, even though we're so spread out a bit, just that ability to have dinner together. No mobile phones, have those deep conversations. I mean, it doesn't sound like rocket science, mate, but the first step is have a conversation with your kids about what's the 100 things they want to do in their lifetime. You'll be surprised at what comes out of their mouth. Have a conversation with your partner about what's the 20 things he or she wants to achieve this year, or they want to achieve this year. And you might be surprised, geez, I've been married to you for 10 years, I never knew you wanted to do that. Why don't we do it? There's the solution, mate.
Look, it's simple, but it's really complex because we spend so much time and effort and training on work, fitness, developing our mindset, but we don't put anywhere near enough into our relationships. I think that's a big lesson.
The classic is, mate, I never wanted my girls to say to me, my dad was a great speaker. He was absolutely unbelievable. People's lives he changed, but he was a shit father.
Love it. My answer on what is it that has led to me having some business success, I can answer this now clearly because I've thought about it. I've had some coaching on it. I wouldn't have been this clear when I started my first personal training business back in Hobart when I was 21. But if I run the filter over what I'm about to tell you, it was still there. Yeah, so I just want to be really clear that I did not have this at 21, but in my early 50s, I worked out how to teach it and articulate it a bit better. First and foremost, I am on purpose. And when you have a clearly articulated purpose, which I didn't have in my late 30s, early 40s, and then went to KPMG, was on more money than I ever thought, and I wasn't disillusioned to a massive level. I was still enjoying stuff, but there was an emptiness. So I got a coach, a great guy named Richard Burton, earning a lot of money. And I left because I realised I've got to be on purpose. And the research shows this. Purpose is bigger than you. It's future focused and it excites the living daylights out of you. So I left. I had a base salary of $500K and incentives you can work out. It was a big wage. Offered a global role, potential global role, and I think some of my friends, former colleagues at KPMG, still think I'm an absolute moron. Would have I had more money in the bank? Yeah, at the moment. I'm sure it'll catch up. But when COVID hit, I had nothing. Like you, I just saw the diary evaporate. But I freaking love what I do. I am on purpose. And for me, my shortened purpose is I love waking people up. So when we sat down 6 years ago and I woke you up to reach your full potential as a speaker, a coach, a husband, a father, and physically to lose a bit of weight and fire up the engine and look at nutrition, I freaking love it. So I just feel an absolute internal flame. So proud of you, seeing where you are. And I was one small part. There are multiple other parts. So number one is being on purpose. I now run big opportunities through my purpose, and it's a hell yeah or it's a fuck no. Yeah. So get clarity in your purpose. The second one is I generally like to add value. If I go back to when I was a personal trainer at 21 and other personal trainers were taking the cash, because I used to have $10,000 at any one stage, up to $15K in cash. It was like,
I get it.
The Underbelly movie. I have no cash now, and any cash I do, my kids take it. But I really do love seeing people get results. I really do love seeing people grow. There's two German words. There's Mitfreud and Schadenfreude. Most people know Schadenfreude. Pleasure through other people's misery. It's how newspapers and the media cycle works. Mitfreud is pleasure through other people's success. So, number one, I try and be on purpose. Number two, I genuinely love seeing people grow, develop, learn, connect. Three, that's led to more business than I ever thought I'd have. And it's authentic. And
amazing.
And I bumbled into it, and I had some amazing mentors. Dennis Rudge, former CEO at Rest Point Hotel Casino. I had Sean O'Sullivan from North Forest Products. I'll make sure they all get a copy of this. Damon Thomas in Hobart. I just had some wonderful men. Lizzie Thomas, who did some wonderful things for me when I was young, who helped channel this. But I've always loved helping people. And then business has always been secondary. So there. It's be on purpose.
Beautiful.
Add value, and the business comes.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. You attract it through, I don't know, just good vibes. Without getting too wishy-washy, arty-farty, and an earth child. But I think you send out good vibes, and good things come back to you. And I love that about your concept, about what you said about being on purpose. That's the real key. And yet most people, they never stop to take the time to think about, what was I put on this planet for? That's that wonderful Buckminster Fuller quote. But all the people in the world, what were you put on this planet to do? And sometimes it's raising great kids. Sometimes it's developing processes and systems in a business that makes it easier for people. But whatever it is, it comes back to what will make you joyful.
I think there's a thread that both of us have. If there's a red thread stitching through our parallel, some similar, some differences in the way we go about stuff, but there is a real red thread of curiosity. You mentioned I'm working with the Wallabies. It's been about 10 or 11 months. I've only started mental skills as a mental performance coach in the last 5 years. I freaking love it. And I honestly feel I'm now doing something that I can be doing for the next 15, 20 years. And I couldn't have done it in my 30s or 40s. So people often think, what are you going to do when you leave school? My eldest daughter, she's finishing year 12, and there's so much anxiety and pressure with her and her friends around, what are you going to do? Yes, you want to get a good mark and get into it, uni if that's the way you want to go. But I said to her and her friends, they were over a couple of weeks ago, hey girls, absolutely work. But you know what? I said this, I didn't really work out what I wanted to do now until I was in my mid to late 40s. And one of them went, oh, that's ancient. I went, hey, be careful. No. But we had a really nice conversation then at the start of the dialogue that, hey, maybe you don't know what you want to do in your 20s. And maybe you need to make some mistakes and have some stuff ups. And then maybe it takes a few more decades of experience. But if you look after yourself, if you hang around good people and have an open mindset and you stay curious, I think you put yourself in the position for opportunities and to grow.
Yeah, 100%, Andrew. I think I love the word curiosity and just being curious, because then you're always open to change and evolving. And I see myself now, I reckon one of my competitive advantages now in my 60s is that I don't have to be the guy that has the step-by-step process. I've got the step-by-step process that people need, but it's wisdom. And what you're entering into a phase now of I know what I'm good at, I know what my purpose is, and I can double down in this insights and ideas. And I think, what I'm now saying to people is that my role is not to give so many ideas, but to give more insights. Because if I give you the insights, you'll come up with the ideas yourself so you can implement them. And let's just weave some inspiration around that so you have enough energy to go and take the first step.
I can weave some science and psychology around that, because we know you hit your physical peak around late 20s, early 30s. So you'll never be fitter, faster, stronger, more powerful if you train right. You can still hang on, but that's your peak. In your 40s, working memory tends to be at its best, but in your 50s and beyond, and that's exactly what you've got, it's pattern recognition. So you could do that coaching session you're doing later tonight with some dude in Poland, and they can pay you a lot of money, and they can pay me the stuff that I get paid. And you can then draw on experience absolutely as you get older. And I love the theme that's been floating throughout this today as well. It's a long life. Live it, love it, embrace it. Now, for people listening to this who would like to go into a 16-year buying cycle?
How do they stay in contact with me? If that's a lovely segue. Really simple. If you go to Keith Abraham, KeithAbraham.com, you can get my monthly inspiration. If you're on that list, you'll get notified when the book hits all good bookstores the first week of December, or you can access any of the other. When you join my community, we give you a whole stack of content anyway, just for you to start on the process. So, and on keithabraham.com, if you'd like to engage me at a conference, just fill in the inquiry, and we'll see if I'm the right fit for you. At the end of the day, I need to be the right fit for you so I can add the most value to you. So, yeah.
Thank you for not just your time today. Thank you for the energy, the playfulness, and thank you for the guidance you've given me as well. It really has made a big difference. So, love you.
Yeah,
love you, brother from another brother.
Yeah, thank you, mate. But back at you. Thank you for the, that conversation. It's one of those conversations that more people need to have that conversation. I often say to people, Andrew, if you build enough trust, rapport, and credibility with with people, you can say, hey, Larry, you need to do this differently, mate, because this is affecting your relationship or your health or whatever it might be. And so I appreciate you having that conversation with me.
We'll have another conversation about how to build a world-class presentation at another time.
I love it. Can't wait. Got some super content. Cheers.
Thanks, buddy.